Hey folks, welcome back to another video, and I want to share with you two tips today in Bitwig Studio. And the first one is about kick drums. So here I have this drum and bass track in the background and it sounds like this. And of course I made this here with my bass generator I showed you in the last video. But here I have some kind of kick drum running. It sounds like this. And the kick drum is a bit too clean, so I want to add a bit of dirtiness to it. So there are multiple options I can choose here. I can add some distortion, but then I introduce a lot of overtones, or I can just mix in a bit of noise. And I made a preset a few years ago called Fake Distortion. It sounds like this. So it's not distortion, it just ring modulates noise with the original audio signal. So this preset was inspired by, I think, by Erosion of Ableton Live. And I tried to do something a bit different, not exactly the same thing. And this one led to a VST called Crisp. It looks like this, and it does exactly the same thing. So it brings in a bit of noise and ring modulates the noise with the audio signal. And you can download this here on KVR or on GitHub, I think. And you can see here the effect was inspired by Polarity's Fake Distortion video. So you can also download this as a VST if you want to. So these are two options or three options you have, but there's also a fourth option. And this is when you already have here an EQ5 or any EQ of Bitwig Studio in place. And that's mostly the case. If you have a kick drum, you probably have an EQ at a certain point in the chain. So here you can add, for instance, just a random modulator. And the random modulator is kind of a noise source. So when we change this here to kilohertz, we have audio rate modulation. And we can also switch this here to bipolar mode. So we have positive values and negative values. And then we can use this and just modulate here a certain band. So let's say here band 2, right? So we modulate here the gain. You can see it's wiggling already. Sounds like this. Almost like a bit crusher. But we can also increase here the frequency. And then it sounds like noise. So the big benefit of this is that you don't need to add additional devices. You can just use the EQ. And then you add the modulator to it, and then you introduce a bit of noise, and then you ring modulate or multiply basically here by modulating the gain. Another benefit is that you can choose the band or the frequency range where you want to apply this noise. So here we choose 2, which is in the range of 1K. But we can also, instead of this, we can modulate here this one, right? So it sounds like this. So you can choose the frequency range, which is interesting because you don't want to have sometimes not always noise over the whole spectrum and add it to it. Here you can just add it to a certain range, which is kind of nice. We can change here the frequency of the noise, which gives you a lot of options. Sounds also interesting here by adding low frequency noise. And then you can change here, of course, the frequency. So instead of modulating the gain, you can also modulate the frequency. But for that, you need to add a bit of gain first, right? So it makes sense. So you change something. So this effect is a bit more subtle, but it brings them in a bit of, you know, it makes the sound a bit more alive, a bit of more of texture to the sound, so it doesn't sound that clean anymore. I hope you can hear it. It's very subtle. So this is a way of doing it. We can also introduce multiple of these random mods, right, and do it in multiple ranges here. Something like this. And then we can use a follower, envelope follower here. So instead of applying this all the time, we use an envelope follower, and then we modulate here the amount of these random mods. And then we can say we want to have a bit of a tag here, so the transients pass through, and then you only add noise to the tail of the sound. And in my opinion, it's also a good idea to not only add this to just one sound. So here it's the kick drum. You can also add this to the snare or the rim shot or the hi-hats and so on. And then you have some kind of gluing effect. So you don't need to add the glue compressor to the bass, or you don't need to compress that hard on the bass. So this is, my opinion, a good idea to do this, because like I said, you have already an EQ probably in place, so you don't need to add additional devices to add some texture to the sound. So another problem was with the tool device. So someone asked me this here on my YouTube channel. I don't know if you can help me, but I try to explain what I'm wondering. If you can do it in Bitwig in Ableton, when you pull up utility effect, it has the option where you can set the frequency, and anything below it will stay mono. Okay, it's weirdly worded, but I know what he means. It's basically about the utility here inside of Ableton Live. So we have here this bass mono knob, and then everything below 120 Hertz here then is mono instead of stereo. So it's nice for, you know, bass sounds and so on. So we don't have this feature inside of the tool device here in Bitwig, right? There's only volume, gain, and width and pan, and you can swap the channels, and that's basically it. So a good idea would be to make everything below a certain frequency mono is, in my opinion, just use the mid side split. It looks like this. So we have the mid channel here and the side channel, and then you put inside of the side box here, you use an EQ5, and then use a low cut and cut everything away, right? So everything in here is basically mono because you let it pass here in the mid channel, and the side channel you remove every stereo information here just with a low cut. So this is something you can do. If you want to make a preset out of this, then you can utilize here the FX grid. Inside of the FX grid, we can use the split and the merge. Split and merge. So we split the channel and then we merge it back together. So instead of connecting left and right, we connect mid and side. And we use a high pass on the side channel. So it's the same idea basically. And then you can dial in here 120 Hertz, and everything then below 120 Hertz is mono. Yeah, you can save it as a preset, maybe do some macros here. You can also add all the other functionalities of the utility device, gain, balance, mute. I think DC is also just a low cut, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, you can make a preset out of this. Maybe I do a preset for this. I don't know if it's needed, but you can quickly do it yourself, usually. So that's it for this video, I think. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, leave a subscription, ask me questions in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.